Did you know that ancient builders cracked the code on heating their homes for free thousands of years before electricity, before gas lines, before smart thermostats? And what if I told you that most tiny home builders today are completely ignoring that same code and paying for it every single winter? Here is the brutal truth. A poorly designed tiny home loses heat roughly 5 times faster than a well-designed one of the same size. Same insulation, same windows, same climate, 5 times faster. Because insulation alone is only half the equation. The missing half has a name. It is called thermal mass. And when you understand how it works inside a compact space, you will never look at your walls, your floor, or even your countertops the same way again. I'm going to walk you through every passive heating secret that actually works in a tiny home in 2026, backed by real building science, real cost numbers, and real case studies. And I am saving the biggest, most counterintuitive trick for the end of this video, because once you see it, you will immediately want to go back and redesign your build. So stay with me. This one is worth every minute. Before we dive in, if you're new here, this channel is all about honest, research-backed content on affordable tiny home living. No fluff, no hype, just real information that helps you build smarter and spend less. Hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video. Now let us get into it. The simple science. Thermal mass is the ability of a material to absorb heat, store it, and release it slowly over time. That is it. Dense, heavy materials like concrete, brick, stone, and rammed earth are high thermal mass materials. Lightweight materials like timber framing, drywall, and carpet, low thermal mass, almost zero storage. Think of thermal mass like a battery for heat. During the day, when sunlight floods through your south-facing windows, your thermal mass materials are charging up, absorbing that solar energy. At night, when temperatures drop and the sun is gone, they slowly discharge, radiating that stored warmth back into your living space. A well-designed, tiny home with adequate thermal mass can maintain a comfortable 68 degrees Fahrenheit, even when outdoor temperatures drop well below freezing, with little to no mechanical heat input. We have a real example of that happening in Colorado, and I will share it later in this video. Why tiny homes are uniquely vulnerable. Here is the problem tiny home builders face that most YouTube videos skip over. In a tiny home, you have very little thermal buffer. A standard 200 square foot tiny home on wheels built with conventional timber framing has almost no thermal mass at all. The walls are thin. The floor may be insulated, but has no heat storage capacity. The whole structure heats up fast and cools down fast. This is exactly why so many tiny home dwellers report wild temperature swings. Scorching in the afternoon sun, freezing by midnight. And they keep cranking up their mini split or wood stove to compensate, burning money on energy that a smarter design would have stored for free. A well-insulated home needs roughly 20 to 30 BTUs per square foot of heating load. For a 200 square foot tiny home, that is 4,000 to 6,000 BTUs per hour. But when you combine tight insulation with adequate thermal mass, you dramatically reduce how often you actually need to generate that heat at all. The 2026 energy reality. This is not a theoretical concern. Electricity prices hit 17.9% year-over-year inflation in April 2026. And the reason matters if you want to understand where this is heading. Utilities across the country are running older, less efficient power plants at full capacity just to keep up with the explosive demand surge from AI data centers and industrial electrification. Residential ratepayers are absorbing that cost. Your heating bill is not rising because of bad luck. It is rising because of structural grid pressure that is not going away anytime soon. That context makes passive solar heating one of the most financially urgent building strategies available to tiny home builders right now. When you design thermal mass correctly into your home, you are not just being eco-friendly. You are locking in a hedge against energy costs that will almost certainly continue climbing. Passive solar heating can reduce your heating bills by 25 to 75%, depending on climate zone and design quality. In cold zones with optimized builds, the savings regularly hit the top end of that range. High-performance, tiny home builds in 2026 are running $150 to $450 per square foot. The passive design principles in this video add 0 to 5% to that cost while delivering payback periods of 5 to 15 years. in a small footprint. Those numbers work even better because you are targeting a small, precise volume of thermal mass material rather than trying to treat a large structure. Let's talk about materials. Not every high thermal mass material is practical for a tiny home. You have weight limits, structural constraints, budget limits, and sometimes zoning or park rules to work around. Here are the 5 that actually make sense, ranked from most accessible to most specialized. Number 1. Polished concrete floors. This is the single most accessible and cost-effective thermal mass upgrade you can make in a tiny home, particularly in a foundation set or skid-mounted build. A concrete slab floor, left exposed or finished with ceramic or stone tile, provides an enormous thermal battery right at the level where sunlight naturally collects from south-facing windows. The heat capacity of concrete sits at approximately 0.20 BTUs per pound per degree Fahrenheit. That is solid, consistent, and well understood. The key rule is do not cover it with carpet or vinyl. The moment you do, you kill most of the thermal mass benefit because you are insulating the mass from the room air it is supposed to heat. Expose it, tile it, or polish it. On the budget side, expect to pay between $8 and $12 per square foot for a professional polish on a small residential footprint. The setup costs for polishing equipment on a tiny home slab are real, and they push the price above what you would see quoted for large industrial floors. But that investment pays for itself in avoiding HVAC cycles over a relatively short time. And in many cases, it is money you would have spent on flooring anyway. The cost comparison is against carpet or hardwood, not against a free alternative. Number 2. Brick or stone feature walls. A single brick or stone accent wall placed directly in the sight line of your south-facing windows is one of the most elegant thermal mass solutions in a tiny home. It looks beautiful. It functions as a heat storage battery, and it can be built as a DIY project with reclaimed materials if you are watching your budget carefully. The wall absorbs heat during daylight hours and slowly radiates it back into the space through the evening and night. A brick wall has significantly higher thermal mass than a timber-frame cavity wall of the same thickness, which means you are getting more storage with less material volume. That matters enormously when every square inch counts in a compact build. Pair this with insulated curtains on your windows, and you have a simple, zero moving parts passive heating system that requires nothing from the grid and nothing from a fuel tank. Number 3. Water containers. Water has one of the highest heat capacities of any common material. Strategically placed water containers, think sealed black painted barrels or integrated water walls, can provide enormous thermal storage in a tiny footprint. This is one of the core techniques used in ship design, and it works reliably. Black painted surfaces absorb radiant heat most efficiently. If you position water-filled containers where they receive direct sunlight through south-facing glass, they charge up aggressively during the day and release heat slowly through the night. This approach is budget-friendly and can be retrofitted into an existing tiny home. The trade-off is aesthetics. Not everyone wants barrels in their living space, but there are elegant solutions, including wall-integrated water panels behind glass facades, that solve the visual problem while preserving the thermal benefit. Number 4. Rammed earth and adobe. If you are building a foundation set or semi-permanent tiny home, and you have flexibility in your wall system, rammed earth deserves serious consideration. Rammed earth walls act as natural thermal batteries, absorbing heat throughout the day and releasing it slowly at night, dramatically reducing the sharp temperature swings that make tiny home living uncomfortable. The heat capacity of rammed earth sits at 0.21 to 0.24 BTUs per pound per degree Fahrenheit, comparable to concrete, but with significantly lower embodied carbon because the primary material is subsoil often sourced directly from your building site. This cuts transportation emissions and material costs at the same time. In 2026, we are seeing a genuine revival in rammed earth construction, particularly in the U.S. Southwest, Pacific Northwest, and Northern California. Projects like the Piracaya Eco Village in Brazil demonstrate how rammed earth can produce affordable, scalable homes starting under 540 square feet with impressive thermal performance and minimal mechanical heating requirements. The honest caveat: rammed earth requires specialized contractors. It is not a universal DIY option, and resale of rammed earth structures can be more complex in conventional real estate markets. Factor both of those realities into your decision before committing. Number 5. Phase change materials. This is the most technologically advanced option on the list, and the research behind it is genuinely exciting. Phase change materials are substances that absorb and release large amounts of latent heat as they transition between solid and liquid states within a very narrow temperature range. The practical version of this for tiny homes involves PCM-infused drywall, ceiling panels, or retrofit insulation boards that you can integrate into an existing or new build without structural changes. Research published in 2025 found that PCMs with optimal melting temperatures between 21 and 23 degrees Celsius delivered 21% heating energy savings and nearly 25% cooling energy savings in building applications. An earlier study integrated a bio-PCM layer in a 170 square foot tiny home in Sonoma County, California, where the ceiling panel absorbed and stored heat that would otherwise drive the interior to uncomfortable temperatures during the day and released it at night when the space needed it. The home achieved full off-grid capability, particularly in summer months. PCMs are more expensive up front than conventional materials, but they represent the frontier of passive thermal management for compact buildings. If you're serious about a high-performance tiny home, this is the technology to understand before you finalize your build specs. Now I want to give you the framework that ties all of this together. I call it the thermal sink system. It works in 3 phases: capture, store, and retain. Phase 1. Capture. You cannot store heat you never let in. Capture starts with orientation. In the northern hemisphere, your main living space should face south, with your largest windows on that southern wall. South-facing windows allow low-angle winter sunlight to penetrate deep into the space, while summer sunlight, hitting at a higher angle, stays outside under a properly designed roof overhang. The rule of thumb for passive solar glazing is that south-facing window area should equal 8 to 12% of your floor area. For a 200 square foot tiny home, that is 16 to 24 square feet of south-facing glass. Less than that, and you're leaving free heat on the table. More than that without adequate thermal mass, and you create dangerous overheating problems in the summer. In cold climate zones, specifically IECC zones 6 through 8, proper south-facing glazing ratios combined with adequate thermal mass deliver heating energy savings of 40 to 75% compared to conventional builds. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a transformation of your energy profile. Phase 2. Store. This is where your thermal mass materials do their work. The placement rule is simple. Thermal mass must have a direct line of sight to your south-facing windows, so it receives direct solar radiation during the day. A polished concrete floor in front of south windows. A brick or stone wall directly behind the glazing line. Sealed water containers, painted black positioned to catch direct sunlight. These are your storage batteries. They need to be exposed to the room air. If you insulate them from the inside, tile over them with thick carpet, or box them in, you kill the effect. Here is a critical rule many builders miss. External insulation is your friend, but internal insulation on a mass wall is your enemy. If you insulate the outside of a mass wall and leave it exposed inside, you trap the stored heat on the interior where you want it. If you insulate the inside instead, you isolate the mass from the room and it cannot do its job at all. Phase 3. Retain. Storage means nothing if the heat leaks out before it can benefit you. Retention comes from airtight construction, high-performance insulation, and thermal bridging prevention. The data is stark here. In real buildings, 25 to 40% of heating and cooling energy is lost through air infiltration alone. Gaps, cracks, penetrations around pipes and wires, poor door and window sealing. A material with excellent R value, but poor air sealing is doing only half the job. For tiny homes specifically, spray foam insulation excels at sealing air leaks. Rigid foam boards are lightweight, moisture-resistant, and easy to install. Natural options like sheep wool are breathable and sustainable. Whatever insulation you choose, the key is continuous coverage with no thermal bridges, which are spots where conductive materials like metal fasteners or framing members bypass your insulation layer and bleed heat directly outside. On mobile tiny homes, insulated skirting around the base is a simple, high-impact upgrade that prevents cold air from circulating under the floor and dramatically reduces heat loss from below. Do not underestimate this one. Cold floors wreck comfort, even in an otherwise well-built tiny home. Alright, this is the section I promised you at the very top of this video. The thing is, once you understand it, you'll want to go back and redesign your build. It is called a Trombe wall, and it is the most powerful passive heating tool available to a tiny home builder. What it is? A Trombe wall is a south-facing dark-colored masonry wall, typically made of concrete, brick, or stone, placed directly behind a pane of glazing with a small air gap between them. The glazing traps solar radiation through the greenhouse effect. The dark mass wall behind it absorbs that heat aggressively. Vents at the top and bottom of the wall allow warm air to circulate by convection into the living space during the day, and the stored thermal mass radiates heat back through the wall through the night. Named after French engineer Félix Trombe, who popularized it in the 1960s, the concept is ancient, but the modern versions are dramatically more effective. A traditional Trombe wall can reduce building energy demand by up to 30% on its own. The PCM enhanced version. But here's where it gets genuinely exciting. Research has confirmed that integrating phase change materials into a Trombe wall system delivers energy savings of 10 to 30% beyond a standard Trombe wall, depending on climate. A well-optimized PCM Trombe wall using an RT35 phase change material achieved nearly 24 hours of continuous heat delivery and up to 75% heating energy savings in October in temper climate testing, compared to 50% savings from a conventional concrete Trombe wall. Even the standard PCM enhanced wall, without any solar chimney add-on, reduces annual energy consumption by 10 to 30% compared to a conventional wall system. That is a significant return on what is, in a tiny home, a very small surface area of wall. What about tiny homes on wheels? This is where I want to spend some extra time, because the weight question comes up every time I talk about Trombe walls in the context of tiny homes. For a foundation set tiny home, a small cabin, or a permanent ADU, a traditional masonry Trombe wall section of just 30 to 50 square feet on a south-facing wall can provide meaningful passive heating for a 200 to 300 square foot space. That is completely buildable, and the return is real. For a tiny home on wheels, a full masonry Trombe wall is not realistic. The weight alone disqualifies it. But here is what is changing the conversation in 2026. PCM pouches and phase change slurries. These are compact, lightweight PCM formats that can be integrated into a thin wall or ceiling panel system, and they provide the thermal storage equivalent of several inches of concrete at roughly 1/10 of the weight. For mobile tiny home builders, PCM pouches are the closest thing to a holy grail that currently exists in passive thermal technology. You get massive heat storage capacity in a fraction of the weight and thickness. Pair that with a dark painted exterior panel and a layer of insulated glazing over it, and you have a lightweight Trombe wall adaptation that actually works on a trailer. This is new enough that most YouTube channels have not caught up to it yet. If you're building a THOW and you want genuine passive heating capability, PCM pouches and phase change slurry systems are what to research right now. Key design rules for any Trombe wall. South-facing orientation only. Dark exterior surface on the mass wall for maximum solar absorption. A tight double or triple pane glazing system covering the exterior face with the air gap maintained between glass and wall. Vents for convective air circulation during the day. And insulated night shutters or heavy curtains on the glazing to prevent heat loss after dark, because the glazing that collects heat during the day becomes a cold radiator at night if you leave it unprotected. Let me bring all of this out of the theoretical and into the real world. There is a 180 square foot cabin in Colorado, documented in off-grid building case studies, that relies primarily on passive solar design for its heating. Large south-facing windows, clay tile floors as thermal mass, tight insulation throughout. The cabin is supplemented only by a small dwarf brand wood stove. The result is a cabin that maintains a comfortable 68 degrees Fahrenheit, even when outdoor temperatures drop well below freezing. The passive design does the heavy lifting. The wood stove is the backup, not the primary heat source. Fuel costs run under $300 per year. Zero propane for heating. Zero reliance on a grid for warmth. And the occupants are not cold. They are comfortable. Now here is the detail that makes this example especially relevant for 2026 builders. One of the most critical elements of this cabin's performance is its airtightness. And airtightness is the word of the year in high-performance buildings right now. Technologies like AeroBarrier, an automated air sealing system that pressurizes a building and simultaneously seals all leaks from the inside, have made achieving near-passive house airtightness levels accessible to small custom builds for the first time. If you're building a new tiny home or cabin and you take the passive design principles in this video seriously, do not let air sealing be the thing you cut on budget day. It is the multiplier that makes everything else work. The mistake most tiny home builders make is designing from the heating system outward, picking a wood stove or mini split first, and treating insulation and orientation as afterthoughts. The builders who get it right design from the sun inward. They capture the free heat first, store it intelligently, retain it with airtight construction, and only then ask how much supplemental heat they actually need. The answer is almost always far less than they expected. Let me give you the practical takeaway from everything we have covered. Whether you're in the planning stage, mid-build, or already living in your tiny home, here's what you can do right now. If you're planning a new build, orient your home with the longest wall and largest windows facing south. Size your south-facing glazing at 8 to 12% of your floor area. Plan for an exposed concrete slab or stone tile floor in the primary living space. If your build type allows it, design a Trombe wall section on the south face. Budget $8 to $12 per square foot for a polished concrete floor finish. Prioritize airtight construction and continuous exterior insulation from day one. And look seriously at AeroBarrier or equivalent air sealing technology as a closing step before final inspection. If you're mid-build, it is not too late to make meaningful changes. Swap carpet plans for polished or tiled concrete. Add a brick or stone accent wall in your south-facing room if you have not already closed that wall. Seal every penetration with spray foam before closing walls. Install insulated window coverings that you close at night to trap the heat you stored during the day. If you are already living in your tiny home, start with the lowest cost, highest impact moves. Insulated thermal curtains on all windows, closed every night without exception. Insulated skirting around the base if you're on wheels. Eliminate any carpet over concrete or masonry flooring. Look into PCM-enhanced ceiling or wall panels as a retrofit upgrade, since they install without structural changes and deliver measurable energy savings. And if you have a south-facing wall with strong solar exposure, talk to a builder about a lightweight Trombe wall adaptation using PCM pouches or phase change slurries. In 2026, this is achievable even on a mobile build. The ancient builders did not have spray foam or phase change materials or AeroBarrier, but they understood something fundamental. The sun is the most powerful and most affordable heating system on the planet. Your job as a tiny home builder is simply to let it in, store what it gives you, and hold on to it as long as possible. The thermal sink system is not magic. It is just building science applied intelligently to a small space. And in 2026, with electricity inflation running at nearly 18% year over year and no sign of relief on the horizon, the builders who understand passive heating are going to be dramatically more comfortable and dramatically more financially secure than the ones who do not. If this video helped you think differently about your build, share it with someone who is planning a tiny home. It might save them thousands of dollars and years of cold mornings. Drop your questions in the comments below. I read every single one, and I will see you in the next video.